Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. Today I'm on a little journey with this tulip quilt top that I've been working on. I really like the way it's coming together. I have 12 blocks that I worked on in a recent video, and you can see I used a lot of just strippy fabric with this, and I'll link the previous video below, but here are some of the blocks that I was working on. I did hand applique them all on these 11-inch squares of background fabric, and after getting them put together in a quilt top, I thought it needed a little more. I wanted my quilt a little bigger, and I didn't want any more tulips. I wanted to add a little something different. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do today. Some of my sewing supplies are in these old-fashioned tins, and this tin holds some old yo-yos and leftover vine pieces, strips of fabric, and things that have left over from other projects. And these I like to use when I am thinking about how I might applique something. So I took some of those strips, and after cutting some 10-inch wide borders, I laid some of those pieces onto that border just to figure out how I might applique. And then the next thing I did was I did add 10-inch borders all the way around this quilt top. So that's going to give me a pretty big area to applique. I did not have a lot of this green left over from making the leaves and stems in my quilt, but I have enough, I think, to make some of those arcs that I showed in when I was thinking about what I was going to do. So to make a bias stem, I folded my fabric on the diagonal, and this fabric is only 20 inches wide, so my stems or my strips here are not going to be that long. I think they turned out to be about 26 inches long, and I'm cutting them 1 3/4 inch wide, and I'm going to be using these all the way around my quilt. One of the easiest ways to make a vine or a stem with your bias fabric is just to fold the fabric into thirds and use a very large basting stitch on your machine, and then later when it's all appliqued down, you can remove that basting stitch. Here's where I had to do a little figuring out. I my strips were only so long. You know, I only had so much fabric. I really like to use what I have, and this green fabric was not the width of the fabric. It wasn't 42 inches wide. Like I said, it was only 20 inches wide, so my strips are only 26 inches wide. Cut on the bias, they were a little bit longer than the width. And what I did is I just made that arc shape on my border here, and the first one is sort of going to be my pattern. So I took a piece of paper and it wasn't big enough, so I taped two pieces together, and now I'm going to draw a pattern of that first arc that I made with my strip here, and then I will cut along that line, and then all of my arcs will be the same. I like to use an iron to press my bias stems or my vines. It just helps hold it in place, and then I pinned it all down so that it would be all ready for applique. And for these vines, I used my machine with some green thread. I did not hand applique the vine, but I will hand applique all the pieces that I'll be adding around this. This little homemade pattern for this shape of this vine worked out really nicely for my quilt border here. With my green thread, I appliqued this green arc down. With my sewing machine, I had to remember to make that stitch smaller, and then I just followed that vine around and I sewed on both sides. When my green arcs were on my quilt, I had some fun cutting leaves and using some circles. I made some yo-yos and I put them here and there, and they're all pinned down. I'm ready to do some fun applique. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.